Welcome to the Hen Report. This is Jasmin Singer.
This is Mariann Sullivan.
And
that sounded kind of ominous, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. But it is.
Thank you. I think.
Actually, no, this is like a good news.
Good news. We're only doing good news.
Yeah.
We're bad news is that mostly only doing good news.
Murray is currently trying to get into my office. So you keep talking. I'm going to just let him in.
All right. Well, as you know, or maybe you don't know, which is why I'm saying it, we now have 3 podcasts. Rising Anxieties comes out on Tuesdays. The Hen Report, which is this, comes out on Thursdays. And the long-form interview on most Fridays. And once a month, the long-form interview is actually the Animal Law podcast. And of course, we're both a podcast and on YouTube, and subscribe on both, on everything that you can, because that really helps us out. You know, that's how the algorithms work. And like and subscribe if you want to. You don't have to, but please do. And yeah, we thought we'd do sort of a good news, mostly a good news episode this week, because like the news, let's face it, like,
yeah,
I can't get away from, I mean, I'm not saying all the news out there is bad. It's actually kind of like obsessing in interesting ways, mostly bad, but not all bad in numerous different ways. The other thing that, you know, I get so caught up in watching all of this political back and forth and everything. And I'm sure you do as well. And I feel like that's all I think about. And it's so ugly. But then everything we think about all the time is ugly.
Well, at least we have responsible journalism and responsible media, like our Hen House, and public media as well. Oh wait, public media is
that was the phoniest intro
I know
I've ever heard.
It was intended.
But yeah, public media, it's a problem. It's one of Jasmin's many jobs is hosting. On our local public media outlet.
Yeah,
for the moment.
At the moment we're recording this, we don't exactly know how it's going to go, but we're pretty sure that maybe even by the time this airs, there will be a huge shift in public media, not for the better, but for the significantly worse. And it's going to basically, in short, remove a lot of the governmental funding for the member stations as one of the fallouts from this. There are
this doesn't mean, at least here, this doesn't mean that it's closing tomorrow, because, you know, there are other sources of money and there is some backlog, but it's pretty bad. I mean, that money isn't going to last forever.
No, I mean, it would be a huge cut at WXXI here in Rochester, but a lot of the rural stations will be obliterated because they won't have additional funding.
Like, it's crazy how like everything is happening. All these bad things are happening, but they're all worse in rural areas, which is, you know, Trump's base, or has been in the past. Like, wouldn't you think that somebody would do something to help people who vote for them? I mean, that seems like the way he works, you know, not so much to support blue states, but to support his people. But apparently that's not how it works, because all the rural hospitals are going to be closing. Well, I guess he thinks that rural people really don't need NPR, because he probably thinks, or by he, I mean all of the Republicans, they probably think you know, NPR is not good for you anyway. I don't know.
Well, it's another reason why we at our Hen House are super grateful to you all, our viewers, our listeners, our flock members, our supporters, because you keep us going, and you have for all this time. So that's good news. Now, if people wanted to hear bad news, where should they go besides the headlines? Rising Anxieties this week?
Yeah, I mean, I figured we would do a good news episode on the Hen Report, but you can always get plenty of bad news from Rising Anxieties. You know, it's basically where I cover things that mostly from the industry itself, that show that their anxieties are rising, but also inevitably there are many things that cause our anxieties to rise as well. Like this week, I talked about salmonella. There was this huge outbreak of salmonella where one person died, but a lot of people got sick. It was from eggs. I think it was a cage-free company. Um, and oh yeah, the Trump administration's lawsuit blaming California's cage-free laws for the high price of eggs. Stop blaming bird flu. I laugh. Why do they're suing California for requiring eggs sold in California to be cage free because they say that's what's causing the rise in the price of eggs. All right, this dairy vet who pointed out the cows are she's an expert on cow welfare, and she says, of course, they're not milked to death like all the animal activists say. They're just killed when they're no longer profitable. It's a whole different thing. You don't want them to live forever. Oh, and some stuff about methane. Always a little stuff about methane. The industry is churning out the methane.
You're doing a terrible job at this good news episode.
Well, I said, if you want bad news, you can go there. Okay. From now on, we're just doing good news.
Let's talk about what we've been talking about recently, which is proof that activism can work. And, you know, this story is about chimpanzees, and basically, thanks to relentless pressure from animal activists, the National Institutes of Health has begun transferring a bunch of chimpanzees from a horrible lab that is now shuttered in New Mexico to a primate facility.
Yeah, the Chimp which a lot of people, of course, have heard of. And this is, part of the NIH saga, which is unbelievable. It is still going on. NIH stopped using chimpanzees in research years ago, and as a result of activism and lawsuits, and promised that they could go into retirement, but kept holding on to some of them just in case they changed their minds. And there's been constant further lawsuits, further activism, and there is motion now. It looks like they're going to get all of them out of Alamogordo, which is this place where they're stored. They're not being used for research anymore, so why store them in these horrible places? And the first group of this new group of chimpanzees arrived at Chimpe in February. And, they're trying to raise money, and they do have some foundation money that seems to be coming through. And of course, they have to build the facilities. You can't just move a bunch of chimps there. So that is good news. There is a little, I know I promised only good news, but there is a little connected bad news that there's this other group of chimpanzees, because this wasn't any law that was passed that you can't do research on chimpanzees anymore. It was just the NIH. There are other chimpanzees in other almost all research is funded by the NIH, but I guess not absolutely all. And then, they can be used in entertainment and all sorts of other horrible things. So, that is dying out. But there's also some chimpanzees being stored, 40 chimpanzees at MD Anderson Cancer Center in Texas. And there is no plan for their release. So, it's good news, but in the context, as always, good news in animal world is always in the context of some bad news as well. So it's not over. I don't know whether that'll ever be over, but it is a lot of progress. I mean, I can remember the day when, the Coulson facility, they were testing oven cleaner on chimpanzees. I mean, they were testing anything on them. So anyway. Yeah. I promised I would be cheerful today. Well, no, I didn't really.
You didn't say that.
Yeah.
All right, but something that I think might be surprising to some people is that in most U.S. public schools, a child cannot be served soy milk instead of cow's milk unless they bring in a doctor's note, an actual medical excuse, and it looks like that could soon change.
Yeah, well, it actually isn't. A school is allowed to obey a parent's request, but it's not required to give a certain child plant-based milk.
But there's now
all right. So this is this bill that I thought was terrible, but not really an animal-related thing. It's it's probably related to RFK Jr. Who knows? That they're going to be serving whole. It's a bill to require that schools serve whole milk. Right now, I think they're serving 2%. And they're not allowed to serve whole milk because, it's full of saturated fat. And so, a health issue, but not really an animal issue. There's no reason to suppose that children would drink more of that. It's just, it will be worse for them. But what I didn't realize, this was reported by Seth Milstein at Sentient Media. This bill actually requires that on a parent's request, the schools will be required to give a child plant-based milk instead, which is really good because who can go get a doctor's note? It might not be a health-related issue. It might be an ethics-related issue. Uh, it might be like a preference issue. Like, why can't a kid get plant-based milk? Sorry. The
Remember
other
that it
thing in
reminds me
here,
of what it reminds me of when we went to Disney World like 15
10
years
million years
ago.
ago.
And we could not get the vegan ice cream unless we specifically
We
said the
had to
sentence
say we had
that
an
we had an
allergy.
allergy. It reminds me of that.
No, I
But
know.
yeah,
You're
this
right.
is honestly what really shocked me about this is that the requirement for cow's milk in schools wasn't born from, you know, health science, obviously, but it was born from agriculture policy.
Oh, of course.
Since the creation of the National School Lunch Program in 1946, part of its mission has been to encourage the consumption of, quote, nutritional agricultural commodities. And milk, obviously, being
Yeah.
from the
No.
dairy lobby,
They've
made the
been pouring
short
that stuff
list.
down our throats since the day
Yeah.
I mean, I remember getting those creepy little cartons of milk. I never liked milk. And we would get those horrible little cartons of milk, and sometimes they were a little off. It was disgusting. And they had to be
Oh,
refrigerated. It's like it was hard. Like they had to like have refrigerate for all of these little cartons of milk for all of these kids in the school. I used to get you could either get graham crackers or Waverly wafers. I always used to get the Waverly wafers, but I wonder why, because they're salty and that wouldn't go well with the milk. Maybe I just didn't drink the milk. I don't
that's
remember. But
disgusting.
there's another thing
Honestly,
in here which
gross.
is really good that I didn't get to yet. And that is that schools will now be allowed. I think this is even bigger. Schools will be allowed to offer, they're not required, but they'll be allowed, which they aren't now, to offer plant-based milk in addition to the offering of uh, you know, animal torture-based milk. And I think a lot of students would just choose it if they have the opportunity. So I think that's really good news. I didn't know that bill, which I thought was stupid, had like all this good stuff in it. So thank you to Seth Milstein for informing
Tofu,
me of that.
tofu also has a lot of good stuff in it. And one of my favorite dinners is breakfast for dinner, which is tofu scramble in my house. I had a non-vegan the other day ask me what I did about eggs, and I was like, "Do you mean like as its own food or in an ingredient?" And of course, he got a much longer answer than I think he ever wanted. But I'm not the only one who is admiring tofu these days. There's this recent YouTube video. This is as reported by Plant Based News. And in it, celebrity chef Jamie Oliver visited Okinawa, Japan, which is one of the world's 5 official blue zones where people very frequently live past 100. It's
Well, people, I mean, I think the article is a little inaccurate on that point because if you watch that program on the blue zones, it's pretty clear that it's only older people in Okinawa who are super healthy because younger people have been, introduced to hideous Western diets and are not nearly as healthy. But anyway, I digress.
in Okinawa, tofu isn't a protein swap, it's a staple. Why don't you talk about it?
I love tofu. That's why I was excited about this story. And according to that show, that was that show on Blue Zones. It was on
Mm-hmm.
Netflix. I don't know whether it still is. Okinawan tofu is particularly healthy. I forget why. And I was just excited about this because vegans love tofu and non-vegans think it's horrifying. And it must be. It just must be. Like, I don't think all vegan foods are like unbelievably good, but I love tofu and you can do so much with it. But even when you don't do stuff with it, it's just good. I don't know
Yeah.
why. Like, and so yeah, I was excited to see this because I think Jamie Oliver, he's a British celebrity chef, so we don't really hear that much about him, but I don't hear that many good things about him. So this was in a travel video he posted to his YouTube channel, and he said that tofu is a superfood ingredient and that it's eaten more in Okinawa than anywhere else in the world. It's in virtually every meal. And
Hmm.
and and he said, if you're not sold on tofu yet, then bear with me because it's incredible and really, really nutritious. So that is really good to hear from,
Yeah.
somebody who has a lot of clout in this
Yeah.
world. So I always like to hear anything good said about tofu, which is, like I said, one of my favorite foods.
Yeah, I like overdid tofu for a while, and I mean I had it
Well, you were
multiple
just
times.
talking about tofu scramble.
Yeah, I'm now easing my way back into the tofu scramble, but for a while it was like all tofu all the time. So,
Okinawans have it at every meal.
oh, okay. Well, that's cool.
What am I,
Uh,
so maybe you should rethink.
well, let's talk about this exhibition that's currently on view at the National Museum of Contemporary Art in Athens, because there is a really bold message pulsing through this new exhibition that's called Why Look at Animals? A Case for the Rights of Non-Human Lives. And this is a show that is really daring to do what most galleries and much of society for that matter still won't, which is to confront the violence of animal agriculture head on and ask us to imagine a world that refuses to normalize it. This is incredible.
Yeah, this article is by Emily Watlington, and it's in Art in America, even though it's about a exhibit in Athens. But it's not from an animal rights magazine or anything, and it's very strong. It goes into the exhibit quite a bit, and apparently this is a big museum. I think they said it was 7 floors, and the whole museum is is doing this exhibit, this Why Look at Animals exhibit. Some of the things she mentioned is a film called High Rise Pigs about a skyscraper factory farm model, and it's things about endangered species, a print by Sue Coe at the exhibition's entrance,
Love it.
provocatively linking human to animal suffering. Um,
Love it.
this is huge. And
Yeah.
she's aware that she is sympathetic to the issue, but she is aware that this is an unpopular topic, quote, as awareness of it all, but demands the sacrifice of personal comfort. Doesn't actually, but I know what she means.
Yeah.
What people think is personal comfort. And the curator's name is Katerina Gregos, and she described pitching the exhibition for 10 years. So there's an activist for you. For 10 years, she's been trying to get this exhibition, and it was turned down, and now she is curating it with a vengeance, it says. Yeah, and there's 7 floors of the museum, and it's on all 7 floors. And it just sounds extraordinary. There are some criticisms of it that some of the work is not as sophisticated as she would have preferred, but it really sounds like there's a lot of very powerful stuff here. One of the works that she does really like is Lynn May Saeed's The Liberation of Animals from Their Cages 2, showing masked activists flinging open gates and setting animals free. And it just sounds extraordinary. I want to go to Athens.
Well, and we live near a town called Athens, which is spelled the same way as Athens, but
Yeah, that's
is
because every town in New York State is pronounced differently than it is
yeah,
after.
exactly.
There's Milan, instead of Milan.
Yeah,
There's
we don't have
there's
too
lots
many.
of them. Oh no, what's the
But
best?
it's
Oh, Chili, Chili. How do you pronounce
sort
that?
of
You pronounce it Chili.
it's spelled chili. But it is I would
I think
love
you could have
to
figured that out from the fact that I spelled it.
that's true, I
It's
suppose.
spelled Chili.
It's too bad that we're not going to Arizona, otherwise known as Arizona, because if we were, we could eat our feelings and go to Mr. Charlie's. I love this story too. I appreciate these good news stories, Marianne, but this is kind of like the
This is a
vegan
good one.
McDonald's.
Yeah.
Vegan McDonald's, right?
Yeah, I was wondering whether you were familiar with Mr. Charlie's, because apparently it started in Los Angeles. The first one was in Los Angeles.
I'm not. I'm not
No?
familiar with it, but I
It
want
is
to be.
it is like a vegan McDonald's, an ethical McDonald's. It serves burgers and fries and Cokes, and how often do we hear of vegan vegan companies going under? It seems like it's every week these days. Well, Mr. Charlie's is not. Mr. Charlie's is apparently doing great. So they started it in Los Angeles in 2022, which is not very long ago. And they also have nuggets, burgers, fries, and nuggets, all plant-based. It looks super cute. And they have one in San Francisco, and one in Sydney, Australia, and now they are opening 18 in Arizona. Like they must be doing great.
And they have a
I
partnership
want to go. I
with
want to go.
LA's
I want to go
Dream
immediately.
Center. They hire unhoused and formerly
Yeah.
incarcerated people. They pay above minimum wage. And I mean, I love the fact that a burger joint can be both profitable and principled. This is for sure something that I feel really good about. That kind of expansion is unheard of. It really is.
I know it's really exciting. I mean, that's really fast. They opened in 2022. Uh, so they're really going gangbusters. It's just nice to hear of things going well. All right, getting back to the thing the thing I started talking about, which is the state of the world right now. Like, do you feel kind of like this is so pie in the sky, I'm embarrassed to say it, but like we are so immersed in sordidness right now. Like it's almost unbearable to watch the news, which I watch 24/7,
We
even though
know.
it's unbearable. And
Yeah.
it's all so sordid. I mean, the Epstein thing is just the icing on the sordid cake. Like, like maybe this is a moment where people are ready for, things that are virtuous. I mean, one thing
Sure.
that I think the Epstein case has revealed is that we think of the MAGA people over here and the libs over here. They all basically agree about this, that it was terrible. We need to know about it. And like the idea that all of these people who we think of as on totally different sides of the spectrum on every single issue actually agree about something really truly disgusting.
Yeah.
I don't know. Am I being
Uh,
Pollyanna? Probably.
a little bit, but I'm here for it
I'm
because
not
you never
Pollyanna every
know.
day of the
Like,
week, let's face it. So take it when you
right.
can
Well,
get it.
I mean, the truth is, it is animal agriculture that is funding Trump. And so the best way people can boycott Trump is to go vegan. And
It's a little bit of a stretch, but
is
yeah.
it? Okay, well, I'm
I'm happy
sticking
to
with it.
I'm happy to go with it. Yeah.
But it does kind of go with what you
It's
just
all
said
part of
about,
the same sordid like reality.
yeah, yeah.
Like like nobody's really in favor of what we do to animals. It's just all hidden and there's so much money piled onto it. And it's just like everything else that's bad. It's like there are some people who are making money and the rest of us just are in the dark. And with animal agriculture, there are other things, that go on with why people remain in the dark. But ultimately, people don't want this. People don't want it.
Well, I'm glad that there are many opportunities, especially for those living in Arizona, to
Yeah,
live
when I first
in
saw
a
that article, it just said
continuum.
18 opening, and I was like, oh, maybe one's in upstate New York, but actually, no. It's Arizona or nothing.
Not quite yet. Yeah,
Or
yeah.
LA or Sydney. We could go to Sydney.
Sure. We'll go to Sydney. That sounds like a plan. I'm sure that everyone is ready to open their doors for Americans who want to go there and eat their vegan
Oh,
food.
will we ever be able to go anywhere in the world ever again?
Well, on that
I don't
note,
blame them for 1 minute.
so don't forget if
I'm annoyed with this too.
oh, I had to tell you, not you, but you. We have such a great show tomorrow. Our interview is with Aishwarya Veerabahu, and she's talking about mushrooms, which is one of your favorite subjects and one of your favorite foods.
Yeah, absolutely. I love mushrooms cooked well. I can't say that I'm very good at cooking them well, but
Yeah.
that has a lot to do with,
You know,
not using enough butter or oil.
I
But I
I
do
went
love mushrooms, and I just am fascinated by them and by fungi in
yeah.
general.
I went through a real moment like I don't know, 10, 15 years ago where I was eating a lot of salads and before I did that I would water saute just button mushrooms briefly just to like kind of give it that
Well, I think
chillier
you're supposed
taste.
to. They're healthier if you cook them.
Yeah.
Raw
So,
mushrooms aren't as good for
but
you,
they
and
also
it might
they're
be bad for you.
better.
I don't know. Oh,
They taste
much better.
better.
They don't have any flavor, much of any flavor raw.
Yeah,
You should always
exactly.
cook them a little bit at least.
So make sure you tune in tomorrow for our incredible interview with Aishwarya. She's going to be talking about it not so much from a culinary perspective as we're
No,
talking about it, but
no.
from like a, can mushrooms save the world kind of way. And she is vegan, obviously, so she has this really cool way of tying it all together to how
Yeah.
how
And
it goes against animal agriculture and yeah.
she does point out that she's not saying mushrooms can't save the world or aren't hugely beneficial, but we better start treating them a little better.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Let's also start treating one another a little better and ourselves a little better. And with that, I'm going to let you go do your day, dear listeners and viewers. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to Our Hen House on your favorite podcatcher as well as on YouTube. And yeah, we love you tons, and we'll chat with you tomorrow.